Well, what if you're God and you come here to this incredible place you created called planet Earth, and you walk up to one of your creations and you say, hey, creation, how you liking this thing I created for you? And the person says, God, I'm glad you showed up because I got a bone to pick with you. First of all, why do you make it so effing hot all the time? And then you make these stupid people that get in my way and interfere with what I'm trying to accomplish. Why wouldn't you make everybody nice and connected? You make these little red ants. I mean, why would you create such a thing if you're God? And then God goes to one of his other creations and says, how are you liking this place? And they say, oh God, thank God you're here. I've always wanted to thank you directly. This is the most amazing paradise. It's so unbelievable. First of all, you never get bored because you're always changing the temperature. It's so amazing. You bring so many people to challenge me to grow, and you made these little red ants. Man, these things are courageous. Now the question is, if you were God, who do you want to hang out with, the first person or the second one? And I think that the majority of us don't take moves because of fear, and fear is just uncertainty. Mm-hmm. It's that base need. And when I go around and I describe this in more detail, and I work with a big audience, 15, 20,000 people, and I'll say, have them do a set of exercises and have them figure out where do they get, what triggers them to be certain or uncertain, what triggers them to have variety and so forth. So they understand that like everything I do is to meet these needs. But then I get them to say, what are your top two? Not what you think they should be, not what you want them to be, what are they? And 90% of the people in our culture are certainty and significance, or significance and certainty, even though they really want love. So they have this route, like if I can be successful enough, then I'll be worthy of it. Or if I can just control it enough and know it's that way, but you can't control love, right? And so most people they're trying to meet their needs in a kind of a backwards way. And I think that fear, that uncertainty is what keeps most people from growing until they get enough pain. And then that pushes them through a threshold where their needs aren't being met, they gotta change. And unfortunately, most people wait till they have enough pain. So right now, if you're happy, you are deleting all the things you could be pissed off about or frustrated or worried about in the world. If you're unhappy, you're deleting all the things that are great in your life.
Wow.
And our brains delete and they distort and they generalize. So if you don't direct it, you get whatever shows up. What's wrong is always available. What's wrong in the world, it's always available. What's right is also available. It's just which one you pick. And it isn't about positive thinking, because I've never been into positive thinking. People think that's what I do. It's not. I believe in intelligence. And so when you're in a lousy state of mind, you treat people poorly, you don't perform at the highest level, you're not happy. Yeah. When you're in a great state of mind, you treat people better, perform at a different place. And it's one of the reasons the humor is so valuable. Yeah. It changes people's state. And then, all of a sudden they're in a different place. They respond in a different place when they're laughing than when they're pissed off.
Yeah.
So why not train yourself to do that? You've trained yourself to find what's entertaining or funny in just about anything. It's what makes you as good as you are in that area. You have developed patterns of how to do it. You may not even be conscious of them all. If there's something inside of you that you don't like, a behavior, an emotion, a thought, it's not you. There's nothing wrong with you. It's a pattern. And we can develop patterns and do them so often that we think we're our patterns. It's just a habit of thinking, habit of motion. You don't overeat every moment. You overeat when you're bored or when you're pissed off or when you're worried, right? It's a pattern. And you can change any pattern when you stop thinking there's something wrong with you. But also, I've learned that anybody that's great at anything, you're an actor, I understand you do music, I didn't know that before, comedian, podcast, you are great at patterns or you wouldn't be successful. If somebody's a great musician, they know certain patterns. Now, how do you get there? 3 skills. First skill you gotta do is you gotta recognize patterns, because otherwise things seem random and it's overwhelming. Like the world seems random, like, oh my God, it's the worst time to be alive. It's such bullshit. I show people, like, they go, it's the worst time in the world politically, for example. There's so much hate. I mean, it's cyclical. We go through cycles, right? Just like seasons. So once you recognize a pattern, you can run a business. Once you recognize a pattern, you can know what's going on in the stock market. You can be a better investor. Once you recognize a pattern, you know what to do with your body for more energy. Recognize a pattern, you can decipher how to make a relationship work. But the first skill is recognizing. The second skill is learning to use it. And when you look at somebody who's masterful, pick any subject, in that area, in that domain, they know the best patterns and they know how to use it. Now you start, let's say you're gonna play the piano, by playing somebody else's patterns because they figured it out. Yeah. And then as you do that long enough, there gets to a point where you learn how to use it, and then you get to the third stage where you create your own patterns.
Yeah.
And that's when you become kind of a master of your particular domain, whatever it is you're really good at that, if you do it long enough and strong enough. So once I understood that, I started doing that with businesses. I realized business is a pattern. There's certain things that make them go, certain things that make, and so then I started building them. I started with 1 business and I was overwhelmed, and then 2, and I did things that I really just thought changed the quality of people's lives, businesses I felt passionate about. And now I've got 114 companies who do $7 billion in business, and I couldn't even run one before. And it's all just because I know those patterns. So what I do is teach people those patterns. Help them understand the patterns that control them so they can change. Help them understand the patterns of something they want to master, their body, their emotion, their business. And once you know them, it's like you know the pathway to get from where you are to where you want to be. Then it just comes down to doing the hard work, because it's hard work. There's no way around the hard work part, but it's fun when you get momentum. And it's easier. It's like easier to succeed when you have momentum than it is to fail. Most of us have been conditioned not to take a risk. People ask me all the time, what does it take to be happy? And I always tell them it's really simple. One word, progress. Progress equals happiness. If you keep growing, you're gonna feel alive. And if you keep growing, you're gonna have more to give. And when you're growing and giving is when life is magnificent. It doesn't matter how many statues, Oscars they give you, or Emmys, or how much money you have in the bank. We've all seen people have all those things, and I get the phone call because they're depressed or somebody commits suicide in that area. So it's really an inner game, and I think that's what's missing for us today. Everybody's focusing on the outside world, and how there's a lot of things in the outside world you'll never be able to control. You can influence, but you can't control it. This, your mind, your emotions, your body, you have 100% control over what you do with these things, and that's where the game is won. You win the inner game, then you win the outer game. But a lot of people spent their life trying to win the outer game, they won, and they're miserable. So to me, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And so many people are focused on success still, which to me is like, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's like success is getting what you want. Fulfillment is living what you're made for. You know, and it's like fulfillment and success, they're not even the same universe. And there's nothing wrong with going for success, but you really got to figure out what you're made for, and nobody knows in the beginning. So you start where you are and you do what's in front of you, do what's next, and you keep growing until you start to discover, hey, this is my real passion. This is my real hunger and drive. And it can change. People go for 5, 6, 7 years, and then they usually question their business, their career, their body, their relationships. And then one of two things happens. They change direction and feel renewed, or they go, no, I got a great deal here. What the hell's wrong with me? And they recommit and they get stronger. But that's life. And if you don't grow, I don't give a damn how much you got going for you, you're going to be miserable. There's 3 decisions you're making every moment you're alive. Your audience could test this out. The first one is, what are you going to focus on? Now, when I say you make these decisions, Theo, I don't mean you're making them all consciously, right? So whatever you focus on, that's what you feel. So the first decision you make is, what are you going to focus on? And most people have patterns of focus. So there's 3 I'll give you, your audience can test out. Do you tend to focus more on what you have or what's missing?
What's missing?
Yeah. Do you tend to focus more on what you can control or what you can't control?
Okay.
And then the third one, do you tend to focus more on the past, the present, or the future?
The past.
Yeah. So those 3 patterns, if you do all 3 of them, if you constantly look at what's missing, it's hard to ever stay fulfilled or happy.
Yeah.
So you have to always do something to try to make yourself happy, because you're always noticing what's missing. That's just where your focus goes. There's always something missing. There's always something that's not missing. There's always something beautiful. If you focus on what you have, you're going to be more fulfilled. Second one, if you focus on what you can control, what you do, it's why you have your own business. It's why who you are. A lot of people focus on what they can't control. It's overwhelming. They're stressed out. They think of all those things. So if you constantly focus on what's missing, you can't control, and the past, which you can't change, what that makes you is either angry or sad or frustrated or depressed. No problem is permanent. Or you start thinking the problem's pervasive because I haven't handled my finances, my whole world's over. Or because my relationship's bad, my whole world's over. Your life is bigger than that. Or all this is happening because there's something wrong with me. When you get to that point, you stop trying. And so my goal right now is to shake that up for people. People need a new perspective, and you can't do it by just sitting and thinking. You got to move your body. You got to change your energy and your focus, because low level of energy, I don't give a damn how smart you are, you're not going to use all your ability. But if I get you into a higher state of being, mentally, emotionally, physically, then all of a sudden you start remembering who you are, and you start coming up with answers that you never even thought were possible before.